So we're talking about 4 ordinance amendments, 2 in shoreline zoning, 1 in the subdivision ordinance, and 1 in the definitions addendum. And it is really designed to, trying to say this in the right way. These amendments are designed to just strengthen our language around community docks. I think we all realized that maybe we needed to strengthen our ordinances, talking about docks older and newer than the state subdivision law. So they would be like pre-subdivision lots or like modern subdivision lots, which is, I think, it is the select board's intention, I think, to get this on the November referendum ballot. And because of the timing, to kind of work backwards, I think the election or the referendum's on November 3rd. The clerk has to have the language for the ballot 60 days beforehand so she can get it printed. And so the select board needs to agree to have what the language is going to be that's going to be printed on the ballot. So the planning board has to hold a public hearing. We can hold, at least, we need to hold at least one before that language is voted on by the select board. We can always hold more if we need to, workshop the language itself. And then there's, notice requirements and everything. So it really backs up that this is kind of the latest that we could do it. Yeah. And so here we are. So the goal for tonight is to discuss this. We can make any changes that we need to make. And we're going to hold a public hearing at our planning board meeting next week.
So this is not the public hearing per se for this? Okay, that was one of my questions.
This is just kind of an introduction. We can discuss it. You guys can make suggestions. And then at the end of this discussion, my goal is for you guys to vote to hold that public hearing. But I don't think you can hold the public hearing without voting to hold, I don't know. I couldn't really.
No.
It seemed logical to me that you'd have to vote to hold the public hearing.
Right.
Who wrote these?
The town attorney.
Okay, is there going to be any kind of a gloss that explains what they mean? I had a hard time.
And I tried to I thought about channeling my inner Mark Ironman and writing a memo, but I didn't get around to it today. But I'm happy to write one before the public hearing.
I'm not going to be the only one that has trouble understanding what is happening here, and exactly what we are saying can and cannot be done. And if that's something that you feel that you can restate now, I would certainly be most appreciative, unless somebody else here thinks that they can do it.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
So this is basically saying, if you have a community dock in a subdivision newer than 1971, you can't have your own private dock. Let me make sure I'm saying this. Okay.
Period.
So, no new wharf pier dock on a recorded subdivision plan approved by the planning board after September 23rd, 1971, or approved by the municipal officers before 1971 that has access to a common lot on which there exists a pier, dock, or wharf, provided that in the case of an approved recorded plan before 71, any lot shown on that plan that's located more than half a mile from the community dock is exempt from this rule.
So it's okay. I'm going to just, because basically you read what was here. Which
So,
I did.
okay,
So
I
they,
just needed
so
to
they
say
can
it.
have one if you are
More than a half mile.
more than a half a mile
Yeah.
from the community dock, you may have your own private dock.
So this goes to intent, like what were the intent of some of these older subdivisions? There's so many lots and only maybe one common dock. There's not very many situations that this will apply to in town. I can think of like Indian Rest, High Head, Harpswell by the Sea. I think I'll check those boxes of
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, pre-71, divisions of land that are approved by the municipal officers that have common docks. There might be more, but those are what comes to me.
But it's not just that they have a common dock, it's also where it's permitted to have a common dock, is what I read.
There exists or is permitted.
Or is permitted, so
Right.
it doesn't have to be there, but if you could,
Right.
then you can't have one on your private land.
So basically, the exception, the rule after the adoption of our subdivision ordinance in 1971, I think it's pretty clear that if there's a common dock in a subdivision, you can't have a private dock, period, correct? So what this is talking about is, before we went through that, got that subdivision ordinance and, you know, the myriad different ways in which these things got approved prior to 1971, that we ought to be able to clarify when exceptions should be made to that general rule.
So there's lots of questions, like,
Yes, let's hear them.
how do you measure a half mile? Along the shore or on the road? And then if you're measuring it on the road, are you including driveways or accesses to the place where you could have a dock?
Good
In
question.
Doughty Point,
Okay.
we have access to the shore. We're not on the shore.
Right.
To get there, we walk down our road, a little bit down Doughty Point Road, then we have to go up a place that at one time was used a lot, and then we have to take this little path through the woods and wind our way down to the shore. And we're not the only people that have access to it. We don't own it, it's part of the neighborhood. So the people whose dock we approved, a couple of them just recently, as the crow flies along the coast, they're probably within a half mile of that. So as the road drives, they may not be. So how do you interpret that?
But they're in a separate subdivision then.
No, it's all Doughty Point.
Yeah, but Doughty Point is like 10 different subdivisions.
Well,
It's
at
subdivided
least,
land on top of subdivided land.
right, well, at least some people who have docks are within a half mile of that, and I don't know about what subdivision is what subdivision.
I think
But I'm
it-
just saying, when that happens, I don't even know how old Doughty Point is.
It's not that old. It's from the 70s, I think.
Yeah, so pre or post this, I don't know.
Post.
But anyway, just as interpreting it,
Mm-hmm.
you know, what is that half a mile? Is it as the
It-
crow flies, or is it as you drive along the road?
It's a radius from the lot to, let's see. Any lot set on said plan that's located more than half a mile from the community dock. So I'd go by the lot line to the community dock.
Lot
So,
As measured from its nearest lot line. So lot line to lot line.
so lot line to lot line, so not road.
No, in the
Not-
radius. So I would draw, if a half a mile radius and anybody that's captured within that circle.
Any place that crosses their lot line, even if it's the little northeast corner or something.
That's how this reads, yeah.
Okay. I just
Also,
want it to make sense.
Right.
to
Yeah,
kind of
Jim.
piggyback off the half mile, where did the half mile even come from? I mean, I don't really have any concerns with that, but it just seems kind of arbitrary.
I
Why
think
not
it
a
was-
mile or?
I think it was trying to just find a cutoff point that seemed logical. Like, is it,
Gotcha.
to capture some of these some of the subdivisions, there's so many lots. So where do you kind of cut it off that it's logical that the community dock is serving all those people within the half mile radius? And where is it logical to say, well, it's reasonable to walk there or bike there or whatever, but if you're further than a half mile, then you can have your own dock. I don't know. Does that help?
Gotcha.
It certainly is arbitrary, because
Yeah.
if my lot is 2 feet inside of that half-mile radius, I can't have my own dock.
True.
So, and I think that's going to be one of the questions that people raise is how did we come up with a half a mile as opposed to 4/10 of a mile? Do we take into account the fact that the shoreline zigs and zags or that sort of thing? And that's going to lead into, I've got a couple of other questions about how to deal with that. But by itself, it certainly seems to be a very arbitrary number and one that, you know, that if you take a look at the kind of applications that we've had, that number may have been arrived at in a way to allow docks for the people who've come before this board.
I'd like to go back to Debbie's question about how, I mean, the half-mile radius is one thing, but if I have to cut across several people's lots on foot or whatever to get to the dock, I don't think, that doesn't sound logical to me. I think it should have to be known roads or paths, that it would have to be measured that way. I just don't, I worry
Measured by
about the
shortest path,
arbitrary nature.
You're
of
saying
this.
measured by shortest path effectively, so, you know, based on your access, your shortest path from, I don't know, if you had a road that you could get to. Is that what you're asking? Accounting for that?
Is that what I was saying that if we're doing like a half-mile radius, maybe I'm going to have to cut across somebody else's property in order to walk to the dock, but we can't have that.
To a community dock?
Yes, yes,
Oh.
You already have legal deeded rights to that community dock.
right, but how do I know if I'm half a mile from it? I think it has to be, the half mile has to be on a road or a path, not just half mile as the crow flies. I don't know, am I not making sense?
No, you're making sense.
Okay.
Yeah, no, yeah, like the difference between dropping a pin on a map and saying, okay, this is within a half a mile, or, you know, like you're saying, you know, a half a mile of actual path that you can walk. As, you know, you might have to walk around some, you know, depending on if you have access or not. But like Margaret said, it sounds like if it's a community dock, you do have deeded access. So, you
Yeah,
know.
we do have access.
Right.
I don't know, I just think a radius is cleaner.
I do too.
I'll be right back, I'm just gonna fix something.
I think it creates less complications, but
Yeah, I guess I'm just wondering, since a half a mile appears to be, clearly appears to be an arbitrary number, if we were to use that as a starting point rather than the ending point, and to say, let's start with, if you are more than a half a mile away, you can have your own dock.
By road or by what? More than a half mile away by what?
As the crow flies. Well, from property line to property line. Okay, just, if we just use that language from property line to property line, say, as a starting point, if you're more than a half a mile away from property line to property line, you can have your own dock. However, that doesn't deal with additional questions like the one Debbie's raising, which is what happens if I have to go across a number of other people's properties?
Well, yeah.
What do we do with a subdivision that has a community dock that, even though it was approved 55 years ago and designed to accommodate the people who had boats then, some things may have changed in 50 years, and that the community dock is simply not sufficient in order to serve those needs.
Right.
So,
You can always have a new community dock. It just has to be designed to serve, I think, a third of the participants in the subdivision.
Well, that kind of came next, didn't it?
okay, but the difficulty with deciding to have an additional community dock is that means that you've got to have a subdivision, you've got an amendment to the existing subdivision, and to have sufficient property that people are willing to give up
Yeah.
in order to have a community dock.
That's the rub there. Where does the property come from?
Right.
For a new community dock?
And are we saying then that because this subdivision was approved 50 years ago and the community dock was designed for use 50 years ago, that we are not going to allow people to put in individual docks without regardless of the fact that in order to allow them to use the existing dock, they would incur additional expenses in order to expand the current facilities and all that. I guess what I'm looking at is there something that we can use this as a starting point and to allow the planning board to have the discretion to look at individual circumstances, the existence of the dock? You know, because we've also got some where there are docks where you have an opportunity for a community dock and none has ever been built. So at that, yeah,
Like, Gurnett Landing, I think, has a community portion of like waterfront that doesn't have a community dock on it.
right.
Yeah.
So we won't allow people to have their own docks, even though there is no community dock for them to access.
My.
Well, then.
No, because you have to have rights of access to a common lot on which there exists or is permitted a wharf pier dock.
Permitted or permitted?
That's the rub. If it's permitted, but none has ever been built, you're telling me that if I come and I want to build a dock, I can't build a dock, but I have to go back to all the people who are members of the subdivision and say,
Who have their own private docks already.
or who may not.
Yeah.
You know, that, I can understand why we're doing this, so we don't have to go back and look at previously permitted things. But,
And I think the whole goal of this is to acknowledge that things change over time. What maybe was intended in some of these older subdivisions, the priorities have changed. And how do we kind of control the proliferation of individual private docks, but still allow people their rights to have some if they're within a reasonable distance away from theirs?
yeah,
I don't think this is going to do anything about helping with the proliferation of private docks,
Yeah.
frankly.
because once you get, now I was going to say the same thing as you are, Courtney, that once you get beyond that half a mile, everybody can have individual docks.
That's
Even
right.
though they're within a recorded subdivision, correct?
A pre-1971
Yes.
division of land.
Yeah.
Right. How many
there's-
subdivisions are pre-1971 in Harpswell?
A ton, but I can
there?
only think of 3 that have community docks. That's Indian Rest, High Head, and Harpswell by the Sea. They're all I think they're all from this, Indian Rest is from 1900. They have at least 2 community docks and some private docks. Then you have Harpswell by the Sea that has 1 community dock, and High Head, which has a community dock.
And presumably, at some point, the people in those subdivisions had to get together and decide, okay, we want to build this, we're all gonna chip in X amount of money, and we will, you know, I don't know, pay money into a maintenance fund or something. So it just means if there's a space for a community dock and a community hasn't put one in yet, it's on them to do that. And if I want a dock on my property, but there's community space for a dock, I need to work with my neighbors to figure that out. Because if there's no dock, but there's a place for a dock and a community dock, I can't build a personal dock.
That's not my understanding.
That was your understanding one.
Yeah, that
That if you had the spot,
you have,
for pre-71,
okay, pre-71,
yeah,
there's a place for a community dock. There is no community dock.
right, then you have your own dock.
Okay, that's not what this says.
That's not what it says.
Tell me, it's this,
No,
for the, let's see, such rights of access, is it that line?
no, it says no new wharf shall be constructed.
And that's after 1971.
Or before, it doesn't matter. If you have
It does.
access to a common lot on which there exists or is permitted a wharf, pier, dock, or float. So if it's permitted and there's a common lot, then I can't have my
If
own.
it's, I read that as permitted, not permitted.
That's an issue.
Okay.
That's the, yeah, I think that's the point we're all talking about, is that, if there's a dock, then these rules apply. If there is not a dock, I have two choices. I cannot have my own dock, but I also have no authority to require the other members of that subdivision to create a community dock.
Right.
And this is we're talking about after September 23rd, 1971. Oh, before, wait,
It's
No
essentially
wharf.
Everyone.
on a recorded, approved by the planning board.
Right, it is essentially everyone. That
Yeah.
On
that
or
sentence,
before,
the rights of
okay.
access on to a common lot.
Yeah, I think it's the language that says,
Hate this language.
which there exists or is permitted. It's the or is permitted.
Right. Permitted, I think, is the word. We have a word that has the same spelling, and they're two different words. One is permitted, the other one is permitted. We're talking about permitted here, which is a legal thing,
Yeah.
I think, as opposed to permitted.
I don't know.
I think we can get rid of that whole or is permitted or permitted.
So, but here's the thing, so if you're permitted to have a community dock and there just isn't one yet, so therefore you can build your own.
No.
Well, no, that's what we're saying, if
Yeah.
there isn't one, so therefore you can build your own, that defeats the whole purpose of not having a proliferation of docks, because if Courtney builds hers, and then,
Dan,
That guy over
brain
there.
fart.
Yep.
Dan builds his, and that common lot is still sitting there, and I come along and I don't actually have waterfront, so I go to you and we decide we're gonna chip in together and build it on the common lot. Now we've got 3 docks.
yeah, but if I wanted to, if I'm not allowed to do this, there's a space for a community dock, but nothing has been built. If I want to have a dock, and there are 15 property owners within that subdivision, I've got to convince all of those members of that subdivision to build a community dock and to pay for it.
All of them? or a
Right, so you
third of
guys are
them?
saying different things.
All of them or a third of them?
However many it takes according to the rules of the subdivision. Because the subdivision owners are all going to have to pay for building that dock.
Is everyone gonna have to pay, or just the people that use it?
That's an interesting question, and it's one that I know has been dealt with elsewhere before.
Yeah, I don't,
Yes, it has.
Yesterday.
oh, did you have something?
No, but we talked about some of the, that there are common, the existence of a community dock increases the value of a subdivision.
Right.
So everyone contributes to that in order to benefit the entire subdivision. But then there's a subclass of people who regularly use the dock, and so those users can sometimes contribute a little bit more simply because they're the ones who are using it. But it doesn't go, but the threshold question is, if there's a space for a community dock and I have 1 vote out of 15, how do we get a dock?
Right, so I don't think you could put your personal dock in because of the fact that there is a space for a community dock that has already been agreed upon.
I'm gonna put on,
And sadly, that's not even the question we're trying to fix
No.
here.
But what I'm also trying to get at, and I think we're all trying to get at that, is that we have 2 questions. One, is there a dock or is there not a dock existing in the subdivision? And the second thing is there some way that the planning board can have some authority to vary what appears to be a very arbitrary line about whether you can build it or not? Including such things as, so when Debbie comes in and says, that line really is a hardship for me, without having to go through the whole variance procedure, and, you know, getting a variance is not an easy thing in the town of Harpswell. Where is there something that can give the town, or give the planning board, the opportunity to look at the particular facts of the situation? It's like when we're talking about decreasing a nonconformity. We have the authority to say, yes, this is the best that we believe you can decrease the nonconformity. What I'd like to see is something in here that allows us to do the same thing.
I'd rather it be black and white than have there be a judgment call.
But people are going to.
But they're all judgment calls that we
yeah.
make here.
And people will come to us
This-
because, like,
Yeah.
like what Dan was saying, let's say we have a half a mile or whatever it is, and they say, look, you know, I'm 6 inches over the, so then, if that were I would come to the planning board and say, hey, look, you know, can you give me a little slack here? I wouldn't be saying, oh, 6 inches, maybe I'd try to sell my 6 inches to Dan or something. But, yeah, I don't know how you come up with I don't know what's reasonable for, I don't know what's reasonable for,
I thought a half mile was reasonable.
of course you
Is
did.
4/10 of a mile
Yeah.
reasonable?
I think 4/10 of a mile could also be reasonable.
How about 6/10 of a mile?
Oh, this is a
Because at
trick.
that point
This is
now,
a trap.
so in the interest of
I
being,
think those things are all reasonable, yes.
okay, so
And
in,
it is arbitrary.
Yeah.
You have to pick one.
Yeah.
so, you know, just to play devil's advocate, which of course I never do, but, you know, if 0.4 miles, 0.5 miles, and 0.6 miles are reasonable, we have picked 0.5 miles, which we agree is an arbitrary number in the interest of keeping everything black and white. And that's why I'm saying, you know, if you're within 1/10 of a mile one way or another, is there something that we can do? And, you know, I would just throw this back at the lawyer and say, you know, if we're going to do something, people are going to look at this and they're going to say, this is an arbitrary number. Is there some way that the planning board can make its judgments the same way we do when we're talking about decreasing a nonconformity, for example?
Yeah, it's hard, and then somebody, if you leave that, if you don't pick a number, then somebody who's 4/10 of a mile away says, oh, come on, you know, it's 1/10 of a mile. And then somebody who's 3.8 or 0.38 of a mile or 0.38 mile, you know what I mean? Then they're saying, but I'm almost 0.4. And that's the problem, which is why I get having a black and white number is
Yeah, I just,
important. I don't know about, you know, a hardship because it's a rock cliff. I don't know.
I mean, we have seen the strong feelings about putting in personal docks on the planning board.
Both ways.
Yes, yes. So I'm assuming that whatever we come up with, there will be challenges by people, and the question is, can it be written in a way that maybe it looks black and white, but that we have some sort of a, I don't know, we have some sort of a leeway, because we have leeways with other things.
Yeah.
We have permitted things that we weren't 100% happy with, but it was the best that people could do.
Yeah. You know, the other thing that, and maybe I missed it in my reading, and I must admit that that's distinctly possible, was anything in there to say that any existing docks that have been built prior, which do not meet the terms of this ordinance amendment, are grandfathered in?
Oh, I didn't see that.
Do you, no, it's not there. Do you think there's anyone, I mean, I can think of some docks I would like to have go away that shouldn't have been done, but we would never We would never go and tell people that they have to take their docks out.
No,
No.
but now, so we're dealing with then somebody who has an existing dock.
There'd be this would make it not, like a new non-conforming condition.
Right,
It was conforming then, but then you're within the half-mile radius, and now all of a sudden it's not.
exactly. And then, but then the next question is, if I had a dock which was non-conforming and it got destroyed, do we then go through the whole thing about are you rebuilding within 18 months in order to preserve it? I think having something like that in here is probably a good thing as well.
Yep.
So people know that if they already have an existing dock that appears to vary from this, it's still going to be good, but they better keep the thing up, otherwise they may not be able to rebuild it
To
in the
rebuild it.
future.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
So what else do we have here then?
So for 15.3.9, the issues I have is the permitted versus permitted. 0.5 miles is arbitrary. What about vacant common land that could support a community dock? And can we include something?
Where are you? I'm sorry, I can't
I'm-
even find that now.
These
read it,
are my
but-
comments.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Rebuilding a non-conforming dock, and then you want to have some sort of like greatest practical extent.
Yes,
I disagree, but I will pass it along.
that's fine. That's why we go through this process.
So what did you mean by the greatest practical extent? Margaret's written it
That's-
down, but I
that's
don't
Margaret's
know.
words, I didn't.
Yeah, it's
What-
the thought of like, is it within a tenth of a mile? Is it reasonable that this person could have their own, maybe the dock, is there like some discussion that you could have to make a judgment call? Maybe this community dock is full, and you want to have your own, and you're within a tenth of a mile of the cutoff, and could we make a judgment call?
Yeah, in fact, I'll take that example one step further. Not only is the existing community dock full, but if you were to expand it further, it would go out into the waterway in such a way that could obstruct boat traffic, affects fishing areas and all that. So it wouldn't be just a thing of, oh, go ahead and make the thing bigger because, not enough parking, not enough moorings, interference with boat traffic and all that. Those are the kinds of things that I think would be legitimate things for us to talk about.
I mean, if you have a subdivision with 50 lots, it's hard to imagine having a dock big enough to serve 50 boats, frankly, 50 dinghies, honestly. So I'm thinking that would have to be a new dock, like
Well,
another dock at another part of the subdivision.
Well, and the other thing is that if we have an area which was dedicated for the area for a community dock, in order to expand, you may have to expand both ways, in which case you're encroaching on the property lines of.
Yeah, you couldn't do that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know where you get,
So I think
Land.
that's one of those things where, we'd have to take a look at the realities of the situation. So,
no, it's complicated, that's the problem.
It is, it's not simple.
truly.
No. I spent so long reading this, I almost put it through AI. Typed it in to say, what exactly does this mean? But I didn't.
It's just as an aside, and I shouldn't digress like this, but I got an AI summary of an email today where someone was talking about not being able to make a meeting, and the AI suggestion was that I was invited to a 2 a.m. meeting in Topsom.
Yeah, it's not always.
All right, are there any other questions or comments that came to mind as you looked at this?
I mean, I was interested in that, the one about the planning board may authorize a new community dock within subdivisions or divisions of land previously approved, blah, 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 blah. I'm assuming that is like a second community dock, or is that, I mean, the way I I took this, which was wrong, was that if you, let's see, if you within, outside of 0.5, that the planning board would have the authority to authorize a new community dock, and you'd have to use that one. I didn't actually understand that you would be permitted to build your own personal dock. I had a lot of struggles with that, especially since this other sentence came right after the thing that we've been talking about. I'm like, so is it okay? Do they have to be in the community dock? Maybe they have then to have another community dock. So I was confused on that.
Yeah, I think this more applies to like the newer subdivisions, I would say. I mean, it applies to everything, but
Right.
I think when it got written, it was to say like, you have to use a community dock.
Right.
If you need to, you can have more community docks.
Okay, I think that there's enough ambiguity there that I think we should clarify that to make,
I needed the,
well, you
The
know,
one
to
for
make sure
dummies.
that what we're really looking for is new subdivisions.
No, it's subdivisions or divisions of land prior to 1971.
what?
You know, part of
Okay, now
this-
I'm confused.
This is 2 sentences, and there's so much in here. Does she have to, like, keep saying divisions of land previously approved by, and do we need September 23rd, 1971 in there 3 times? I mean, I think if
So
there would be ways to,
the other way to do it without having to put all that language in there would be to revise our definition of subdivision to include post-71 and pre-71. But the problem with that is that everything pre-71 would have to come to planning board for a lot line amendment. And there would be a proliferation
Right.
of amendments coming to planning board, which I don't really think is necessary.
Yeah,
And there's all this stuff that's non-conforming now that all of a sudden would be under the planning board's jurisdiction. Well, then we'd be chasing down all these people who thought, oh, I didn't need planning board approval, and then all of a sudden they would. So this is a way to kind of clarify what this applies to without messing with our definition of subdivision.
that's a good point.
Yeah.
We don't need to
No, we
have
don't.
useless work.
I just
Yeah.
wish there were some way.
just the way
to
it's
split it
written,
up.
where she keeps saying the
I know.
same thing.
I got lost. I lost the thread after about 5 clauses. It's like, give me bullet points.
Well, you know, I
This
think
applies
talking
here,
about
this
what,
doesn't apply.
yeah, what Debbie's talking about, I think we could probably take 15.3.9 and divide it into 2 portions. One portion that applies to pre-1971 and the other that applies to post-1971.
That would be nice, instead of
Because then
having
you wouldn't have to
semicolons.
repeat September 23,
Right, it's
1971.
just a matter of making it easier to understand, because you get,
Yeah,
I mean, I get what it says, but you just get lost in the,
Yeah,
I certainly got lost.
so that would, that might make
So
it
that
more
might- yeah.
readable.
But Courtney's issue with the last sentence of that section, can you say that in a way that I can write it down?
Which,
I mean,
The
to
planning board may
me,
authorize a new community dock, that sentence.
subdivision.
I mean, maybe that, does that have to even be part of that paragraph? Because I thought, oh, well, if you're located more than 0.5 miles from the community dock, you're exempt, but then the planning board may authorize a new community dock. So I thought, oh, well, then, now you're too far away, but you're gonna have to use a new community dock that the planning
So
board.
maybe that only applies to new post-71.
Why?
Yeah, I would
Really?
think, I would think so. Because I can't imagine,
Because I understand what you're saying, if you're outside of the half a mile,
Right.
you could have your own dock, so what's the point? And if you're inside the half mile, you can't have your own dock, so what's the point of building a new community dock?
See, that's why I
Yeah.
thought, it's like, if you're too far away from the one that's there, we will give you permission to build a new community dock, and then you can use that one that's closer to you. That's kind of the way I took it. And I kept going back to, because I knew that couldn't be right, but I couldn't do it.
yeah, I agree.
So
Okay.
maybe that sentence would say, the planning board may authorize a new community dock within subdivisions, and then get rid of that, or divisions of land section.
Period.
Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Within subdivisions pursuant to section 15.23, blah, blah, blah.
So someone would come in with a request for a subdivision amendment saying, we are proposing to change some lot lines, et cetera, in order to create a place for a community dock that's going to serve at least 3 people, right?
A third of the lots, but yeah.
Or a third, yeah, okay.
So it's not just that it's a new community dock, I think it's an additional community dock. Is that correct? There's already one community dock, but the planning board could approve an additional one, because when I hear new could be, was an old,
I think, yeah,
Why couldn't it say new and count for both?
because, I don't know, I think new is kind of, could be ambiguous,
yeah.
as opposed to additional, which maybe that's not. what
And
was
an
intended,
original
though.
or additional.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, unless that's not what was, maybe I'm putting my own meaning there.
I'm trying to figure out when somebody would want to do that.
I'm thinking about a place that might have 50 properties where, I mean, there are people in a certain subdivision I can think of where everybody would not be able to put in a dock because I don't know whether they're landlocked
Right, yeah, they might not
specifically,
But they're inland, yeah.
Yeah.
but one of the ways that the other community dock was helpful to them is that now they can have a boat, whereas before they could not
Right.
have had one. So that's what I'm thinking of. So I could
Yeah,
see,
that idea of a landlocked property, that you've got a number of people who do not have shore access.
right,
And instead of going a long ways over to the existing community dock, they say, can't we have something with the assistance of people who do have waterfront to give us all additional access? That's about where I would see it most likely, but
I mean,
I
I think,
can't imagine it ever happening, though, in real life.
no.
I don't know. I mean, I guess we don't have a personal dock, but from what I'm hearing from a planning board stuff, it's expensive to put in a dock just for yourself. If you put in a community dock, it's going to be more, but it's going to be shared by more people, so it's maybe more reasonable. I don't know.
So how would you like that sentence to read? The planning board may authorize a community dock, a new community dock, an additional community dock,
I mean, I think the idea of this is if the current community dock is insufficient or too far away to serve certain members of the community, the planning board may authorize an additional community dock. I mean, I'm assuming that's the point behind this. Is that correct?
I think so, but what if they don't have one yet? Does it have
Right.
to say additional? Can it just say may
Well,
authorize?
no,
a
I think you have to
community
say if there is, it would have to be something, if there exists, except I don't know the legal language,
You
a
just say
current,
either a new or additional.
dock? A new or additional.
new though sounds like it's replaced to me.
Okay,
But new could be in a community where there's space for a dock and one's never been built.
Right, that's
So
what
a
I'm thinking.
neighborhood could come and say, we want to build a dock here. And that would be new. It wouldn't be additional.
Right. and
or
we-
nothing in this ordinance shall prohibit,
Yeah, there should be a clearer way to put
yeah,
this.
shall prohibit,
Nothing about this is clear to my brain right now.
shall
with you.
prohibit more than one community dock within a subdivision, if approved by the planning board.
Okay. And I think I liked the idea of splitting it into a pre and a post 71 section. So this would only apply to the post 71. Because the pre 71 ones, we decided you're either within the half mile or you're not. Right? So you wouldn't need a new community dock in those instances.
True.
Because this is really
But we
talking about
could
places with
permit one.
existing.
But we could permit one. We would
Yeah.
still, the town of Harpswell would prefer fewer not docks, I think.
Yeah, we can always permit a community, I mean, people can
Right.
band together and make their own community dock
Right.
whenever they want.
But it would be nice to make sure that that is available to the older subdivisions.
I mean, it is. They could do it now without us.
Yeah.
I don't know
This is
whether
really
I would know
This
that.
is really more about regulating, if you want to add one for, I don't know, this is, this is really making my brain hurt. Let's,
Yeah.
can we go on to 917?
Yes.
Proposed amendment to the subdivision ordinance.
Okay.
All right. Any other discussion there? I have another question.
For the first one?
No, about that section. Any other questions about that section?
The one we just went over?
Yeah.
Oh. No, you said you had more questions, though?
I had, the only other question I had was in the definition of community docks. No, that's not it. Where is it that says that that this does not apply to property on town-owned property?
On the back.
Oh, okay.
1523-1.
Okay, there it is.
Except that these community piers, docks, and wharves located on town-owned land shall be exempt from these requirements.
Why?
Because the definition, under definitions addendum, lumps subdivision docks, residential subdivision docks, and municipal docks in the same bucket. I think that the idea and the function of those two things are wildly different. For a lot of commercial fishing towns with town-owned docks, they're commercial fishing docks.
And they're bigger. They can be much
Exactly.
bigger.
They can
Yeah.
be a lot of things, and a community dock by the ordinance can only be 6 feet wide.
Yep.
It can't, it's like a residential dock, basically. And
Oh.
so it lumps these two things together, and I think that's so ridiculous. I think that if the town of Harpswell ever wanted to build a municipal dock, or they wanted to expand Mitchell Field, or, whatever it is, the way the ordinance is written now doesn't allow it.
So you're talking about the 6 feet, and I was looking at the mean low water mark. So why would that be okay? But I get it.
Because sometimes you want the dock to extend further into the resource to make it you might want an all-tide pier. Maybe you want a deep water pier that you can pull up to on all tides and not just a ramp and float. Because if you're thinking about commercial fishing
Right,
if you're thinking about commercial fishing, you want to be able to come into your wharf at all tides, not just
right,
high
Right.
tide.
right. Yeah, this isn't personal. This is for.
Okay.
Yeah.
not
Okay,
commercial.
so,
Okay.
Does that
so I
make-
think,
Yep.
yeah, so I
Yep.
think the reason why that jumped up is that people are gonna look at it and say, what do you mean except that it doesn't apply to town land? Rather than having it defined in a way that does not include town land.
Yeah, if you did it the other way, you'd have to change the definition of community dock, separate it into two buckets, community dock and town-owned dock. And then have a separate set of regulations. To me, it was simpler just to
Okay.
give the town an exception.
Shown in a recorded, are there any town docks that are within a recorded subdivision?
No. No, it's the last sentence. Or on town-owned land having the common right of use by the general public.
Okay, but I'm saying, the definition of community dock already excludes town-owned property, doesn't it?
No, it's the last sentence includes it. So community dock is all about
Now,
subdivisions
where are we?
under the definition of
All right.
community dock.
I'm
So
on the
community
wrong
dock, a
page.
single wharf, pier, or dock or float on a lot in a recorded subdivision plan, blah, 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 or on town-owned land having the common right of use by the general public. So it puts two totally separate,
They're two totally separate concepts.
and then it puts them in the same bucket. And I understand why, because they're both about community access. But
It's-
it just really rubs me the wrong way that the town-owned dock can't extend out, below mean low water, or can't be wider than 6 feet.
Yeah,
It's too bad they have the same name, community dock. Some are commercial and some are personal.
We don't have any commercial right now, but we could.
But I mean, we are trying to make it possible to have that exist, are we not?
This doesn't have to go in. It just, to me, it was important, but we can take it out.
Because I think that's going to raise more questions, I think, than it answers, unless, if we can
Can we fix it?
somehow describe what goes on, what is built on town-owned land as not being a community dock. Because in one case, we're using the word community in two different contexts. One is a very tightly confined definition, and the other one is the town at large, correct?
Can we just take the word community out on 15.23.1? Except that piers, docks, and wharves located on town-owned land shall be exempt from these requirements.
Oh, that's an idea.
Would you read that?
Take out community right there.
I just
Why does
took-
that matter?
I just
Because
took
this whole
community
thing about
away.
Oh,
community-
good, yeah.
And a community is the neighborhood or a community is the town?
But this whole section is about 15.23 is community, piers, docks, and wharves.
Are we talking about then, see, I'm stuck back on the community with the community,
It's the definition of community.
community dock. We're talking about subdivisions, and now we're over here. But are these community dock, piers, docks, and wharves, one specifically for subdivisions here? Is that what is really being discussed as opposed to things that are on town-owned land?
The definition of community dock includes both.
Well, I need to fix that.
But are there any width or length requirements for any town docks?
There are right now. If we put in this exception, there won't be. Right now,
So you're talking about eliminating restrictions on docks that are owned by the town or on town land, right?
well, community docks, yeah.
Okay, well, community dock,
Well, this
Are
would
there
be.
other docks on town-owned land?
Yes.
Oh, this is really.
Sorry, that took me a minute, but yes, there are. There are privately owned docks that have been built and now they're leased by the landowners. Like the Beekers have a wharf on Holbrook Landing, down off Lookout Point. I can't remember the property owner. We just, at town meeting, I don't know which one. This year, we just approved his lease. So these are privately owned docks that have been built, and I don't know if the ownership just changed or what, but they're on what is now town-owned property.
Yes, I remember something about that.
Ah, okay.
It would just be nice if we could figure out a way so that when I see community piers, docks, and wharves, I'm in a subdivision. My brain is in the subdivision. So the fact that there are community piers, docks, and wharves that are on town-owned land, as a regular person, I find that very confusing.
Then you have to go back to the
Yeah,
definition.
yeah.
yeah, and then I'm gonna write a letter to the editor that says, well, sure, you're gonna restrict what we can do on our own property, but when it comes to the town-owned property, they can do whatever they please.
I
That's,
think it just keeps it open if we ever wanted to make something for commercial fishermen. I mean, that's really where it comes down
Right.
to me.
okay, but I
I
think,
like that.
And I think that you greatly overestimate the number of people who read the ordinances.
Because
No.
we can't read them.
no, I'm talking about the people who read about it in the Anchor.
Yeah.
I mean, I think this is
I know
a
what you're-
great idea to try to make things better. I just wish it were just not so complicated, you know?
And I'm also mindful of the fact that any changes here could actually have changes, like what a town-owned community dock is, could have implications in other parts of the ordinances.
Like what?
There might be somewhere else where the terms are used. I mean, it's like having to make sure everything is,
Yes.
agrees.
So what do you guys want to do?
This is great.
I want to go to Cook's, and it's not open.
Well, I think, Margaret's whole thing when we were talking a little bit earlier about completely separating out pre-71
Yep, yep.
and post-71, that's a place where you run into possible complications
Yeah.
in other
Okay.
parts of the ordinance, right?
All right. So should we go back to page 1, because you skipped ahead, Mr. Chair,
Okay.
to the back, and figure out what are we doing? How do you feel about this first one?
I think you guys ripped it to shreds. I thought it was pretty decent, but I understand. I mean, this is why we had this discussion before the public hearing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you feel like this is something that you can tweak a little bit and,
I don't think I
Or-
can tweak it enough to satisfy you guys, but I think I can tweak it a little.
Can you go back to,
I don't know how to handle vacant common land.
I still didn't see where that
It's
is.
not in there. You
Yeah.
brought it up. You guys brought it up.
Well, I didn't say it, so I didn't know what you were talking
Yeah.
about.
no,
Like if you have land on your subdivision plan, waterfront property, but no dock has been built,
Oh,
can you still build your own dock? And I
got it,
think
got it, okay.
That's a question that I don't know the answer to, and I don't know how to answer it.
okay, I'm just
I think
wondering,
we all need to wake up at 2 a.m. and somebody has to wake up at 2 a.m. with a brilliant idea tonight, and they can email me. in the morning.
absolutely. I'm just thinking that the lawyers who've been working on this, if we tell them what our concerns with the way it is right now.
I think it'll get more complicated.
Well,
Unfortunately, I think.
but you know
you're
what?
right.
Yeah,
The idea of trying to get,
Permitted is,
yeah.
the idea of trying to get this on the November ballot is a wonderful idea. But if it isn't worked out right and it's not going to answer, we only have one real shot at doing this. Because if we put something out and it goes before the voters, and now all of a sudden we find out that there are other things that should have been in there, it's not going to end well.
That's a good
So-
point.
Yeah.
The problem is, this is a very complicated issue, and that's why
And
it's been so hard.
Yeah, it is very complicated, and it's serving to answer a really complicated question, which is, how does the town want to handle? I think the town knows how it wants to handle these docks in these older subdivisions, but how do you put it on paper?
Exactly, and
Yeah.
especially when you have to take into account how the town has handled previous dock applications and permitted them where we really don't think they should be, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
We do know that.
Okay, does that give you enough
Poor Margaret.
stuff to?
Yeah, that gives me plenty of stuff. Yeah. I mean, if you don't like the half mile, do you have a suggestion? Should we just go with a half mile?
I think
A half mile seemed to me like a good compromise in the middle of the road, but
as a starting point, with the opportunity to balance the equities of the situation, best,
But we probably would not be putting that in the ordinance itself, right? Because that gives a little wiggle, people will seize upon that wiggle room.
but we do want people to have wiggle room.
I'm assuming if they want the wiggle room, they will come to us. I don't know whether it should be in the
But the-
ordinance itself. I don't know
but-
how you put that in there.
But if they come to us wanting wiggle room and we have no wiggle room in the ordinance,
I don't think we should have any. I'd rather it be black and white.
I know you
That's
would.
the third time I've said it, but it's true. I hate things being arbitrary and being a judgment call. I'd rather read the ordinance and know the answer than, I don't know, to plead your case in front of the planning board.
Okay, so what do we do with, non-conforming uses? We have wiggle room in there all the time.
Non-conforming structures.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's different, I think.
how
a
is that
dock's not
different?
a structure?
Because I think it's different because that is I get what you're saying, I guess, because we've made it non-conforming by changing the ordinance.
And that gives people who And we've told people before, you came in and you said, oh, we just want to put it on the same footprint, and we've said to them, no, you haven't gone in and shown to us that you can do better than that. It gives
So-
people an opportunity to be heard where they feel that that the requirements are unfair to them or inequitable.
I think just giving people a back door out kind of defeats the purpose of making the half-mile rule in general. I don't know. The DEP does this thing called, I know, alternatives analysis. I don't know, sometimes you've probably seen them in the application, but when you apply for a new dock, you have to say there's no feasible alternative. And it is really squishy. And the judgment that they basically say, well, this is a half-mile away, and that, there's a waiting list for that place, so the only feasible alternative is for me to have my own dock.
Yeah.
And that's essentially what you're asking people to do for you, is to do this. Well, there's no other alternative, so I have to have my own dock.
Yeah, I have a problem with that.
Yeah.
I don't think everybody automatically should be allowed to have their own dock. Just because you're,
But,
just
you know,
because
so-
you're on the water does not necessarily mean that that gives you the right to have a dock.
So I think where we're kind of going back and forth here is we can have something that's absolutely black and white, and if you miss it by 5 inches, you're dead in the water. Or to give a bit of discretion to the planning board, but limiting that, because otherwise we don't want to also take away the authority of the appeals board, which has, a completely different set of rules.
Don't we have to rule first before it goes to the appeals board, or no?
Yeah.
Well, it depends, a variance versus an appeal. Dan's talking about a variance.
I'm talking about a variance, yeah.
Oh,
Which
okay.
that
I
would
know
come
that
to us
happened at
first.
least once with something that we,
Yeah.
looked at.
Okay, any other questions or comments on this?
Jim?
All right, then Jim, anything else?
None for me.
Okay, then the only other item of business here is consider,
Wait, we have to go through the rest of these, don't we?
I thought you
Do you have
were,
more comments?
Well, we hadn't even looked at them officially. I mean,
well, we were kind of looking at did you have other questions having,
well, I kind of wanted to hear what people said. Okay, I mean, we haven't given Margaret any feedback as to whether we think they're fine as they are. I mean, 917 looks good to me, but you had jumped ahead to the back page that
Okay.
time. I was like, eh, all right. Okay.
Yeah, I think they're fine, and we talked about the whole.
Yeah, I just wanted to
Community
seem like
peers
we
thing.
were quickly moving without having come to a decision. Okay, so we're still sort of stuck on the town-owned land. I don't know what to do about that one. Right?
well, didn't we have,
Because it's still the use of the word community for two completely different kinds of things, I
you
think.
know how we could do that?
No.
Except that piers, docks, and wharves located on town-owned land shall not be deemed community docks for purposes of this ordinance.
No.
No, okay. There's a no there.
Okay,
Because then what are they? You were defining them as a community dock in the definitions addendum.
Right.
Well, I don't want them to be called a
That's
community dock.
what we were talking about
Yep,
over here.
that's why I didn't feel good in going on without fixing this. Sorry.
I mean, I think the real answer is that it lumps in two totally different things. Because in my mind, a community dock owned by the town could be for residential access, like Potts Point. It could be for boat launching, like Mitchell Field, or it could be for commercial fishing. We don't have a community dock like that in town, but a lot of other towns do.
I just wish that there could be somehow a differentiation between a community dock used in a subdivision and a community dock which is like a landing or something like Mitchell Field.
Yeah.
That is available to the community at large. I just, because the way it is now, I think it's confusing. Not what you wrote, but just the general
Yeah,
thing.
Yeah,
And I
I
don't know how to
agree.
fix it. I mean, maybe it's a question of separating things into two sentences again. Under the definitions addendum for community dock, you put a period after the tying of dinghies, community, a town, docks used by the community on town-owned land are also known as community docks, or something like that, rather than having it like the lawyers like with the semicolon where you keep trying to,
Yeah.
you know, if something like that could be done. Maybe the town-owned part wouldn't get swallowed up like it is now under community dock.
Community dock should be defined as A, a single wharf, pier, blah, blah, blah. Or B,
Yep.
town-owned land having the common right of use by the public.
Yep.
Is that what you have in mind?
Yes, so I think that would be good because it separates the two ideas out so that you have to think of one and then you have to think of the next one. It's not that they bleed into each other.
I mean, we can certainly do that, but and I'm happy to do that, but what do we gain?
Clarity,
Okay.
I think. I'm just thinking of regular people who, I mean, they really are people who do read the ordinances. I'm surprised. But I think any way that we can make it clearer it can't be anything but good, I think.
Okay, if we split the definition of community dock into A and B, then if we go to 1523-1, community piers, docks, and wharves as defined as community dock, subparagraph A.
All right, community docks that serve as for subdivision lots, and community docks that serve for,
Yep.
for town-owned land or
Yes.
municipal
Yes.
docks.
That would definitely make it clearer, I think.
Okay.
Then we don't have to say that, then we don't have to talk about town-owned land as being an exception.
It would
Okay.
have its own set of standards.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's good.
So it'd be like 15.23.1.1 would be that, and then 1.2.
But community piers, docks, and wharves that serve subdivisions would have a blah, 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 blah.
15.23.1.2 would be for town-owned docks. Cool.
So is it okay to say shall be exempt from these requirements? Or
No,
exempt from the requirements in 15.23.1? What would be the sentence that would be under the town-owned land? one?
Community piers, docks, and wharves located on town-owned land shall not be restricted in size, I don't know.
Well, you know, if you look at 1523-2, it talks about community piers, docks, and wharves located wholly within a subdivision. Okay? And what we're talking about is a community pier, dock, or wharf that is not located within a subdivision.
So if you took this
Right.
language in 15.23.2 and added that up here, it's for communities, piers, docks, and wharves located wholly within a subdivision shall have a maximum width of 6 feet, blah, 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 and then just take out the whole reference to the town.
And the
Yeah.
sideline
And it would be the
setbacks of the 10
same-
feet.
Parallel construction is 15.23.2, and then you're not saying there's an exception for the town, but since it's not included,
I
There
think we
is
have
one.
to, I think we have to say something about the town, however, somewhere. I like combining,
So for community piers,
Subdivision.
docks, and wharves located wholly within a subdivision, the, they shall have a maximum
width
width,
of
Yeah.
6
and then
feet.
blah-de-dee, blah, blah, blah.
and a
before I say-
sideline
And then
setback shall be 10
take
feet.
out the except the red. Don't
And
even
then-
mention the town.
I think the town, I think we should acknowledge that there's no size limitation.
Yeah, I think you're gonna have to say something. Once you say community piers, docks, and wharves wholly in a subdivision, then people are gonna be thinking, well, what about the ones that aren't in the
'Cause when-
subdivision? So, yeah.
When the code officer goes to say, what are the size regulations for these town-owned docks? It'd be nice to at least say there are none, or
Yeah.
a classier way of saying that.
Okay.
Okay.
Just to, I don't know, I think it.
I'm just
I
To
think it
acknowledge
trying
it
to,
would,
Yeah.
is to make it more clear, because otherwise you're gonna go into years and say, well, they don't even contemplate what
Right.
the size
No,
of a
I think it
town-owned dock
needs
is
to be
supposed
there.
to
Yeah.
be. Okay,
But squinching these together is good. I mean, having the width and the length in the same, the same spot is good. So, yeah, all right.
All right.
cool. Will you guys vote to hold a public hearing next week?
so
Certainly.
moved.
What's happening?
We're voting, I moved that we vote to hold a public meeting next week.
Do we know-
discuss
On the
this.
proposed ordinance amendments. We can hold more public hearings. We can hold one and then we can hold more, but the first one's got these noticing requirements that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Okay. Any discussion? Since it's by Zoom,
Jim Babarski, aye.
Dan Hoback, aye?
Courtney Snelling's aye.
Debbie Forrester, aye.
All right.
All right, I'll bring us some amendments next week and we can work on them.
All right, if you happen to come up, now, I'd be happy to come over and sit down with you and work on some language later on this week, too.
Cool.
All right.
I don't, because of the noticing requirements, I think we're gonna have to discuss these ones still. And then
That-
maybe hold a future public hearing on more amended ones. Because the notice that I put up was for these ones specifically.
Well, sure,
It's just because the timeline's kind of
yeah.
together.
The time crunch is really not our friend here.
It's always a
It is
time
not.
crunch.
So it's like we never spoke.
All right, going on
No,
to,
it's like we all got an intro to it and now we understand it a little bit better.
yeah,
And that we can speak better about it next week for our public hearing and then we'll hold another one.
and
Right.
we've had plenty of personal experience with issues of docks within subdivisions to talk about it intelligently.
Yes, we do.
True.
All right, going on then to other business, consideration of the minutes of February 18, April 1, April 15, May 20, June, July 15, and July 21. Does anyone have any additions, deletions, or corrections to any of these minutes?
I do not.
I sent in a couple of, there were a couple of missing words just for clarity, just a couple, and a misspelling of something that I thought might be important, and I sent those to Margaret, but
Okay,
I thought
that's,
otherwise, those were small things not needing to be discussed.
yeah, the only thing that I noticed was that on the July 21 meeting, at the beginning, it still referred to me as being vice chair.
Okay.
I didn't notice that, sorry.
You missed one.
I did.
Come on.
I totally
Courtney,
did.
you're the one.
Ugh.
We rely on you for that. So
For a lot
any
of
other
minutes.
discussion?
So we'll make the spelling fixes and stuff. Okay.
Okay. Then I will, then I move that we adopt the minutes of the February 18, April 1, April 15, May 20, July 15, and July 20, 2026 minutes.
Second,
Discussion? Okay. Jim?
Jim Babarski, aye.
Dan Hoback, aye.
Courtney Snelling's aye.
Debbie Forrester, aye.
The motion passes.
I will send out the finalized ones once they're done.
Okay, very good. Is there anything else that you want to discuss? We had a number of things on planners update.
One of these is the community guidelines. All the chairs received these, and it's really, and we're supposed to kind of distribute them
Okay,
at our next meeting. So if you guys want to read them, I don't remember if I sent them out via email.
I don't recall getting one.
Okay. It doesn't surprise me. I will email them out to everybody so you can all have an email copy of it. But it's just basically like procedure stuff. So if you're new to town, or really in my mind, it's if you have a new staff member who's responsible for a committee, we all understand what our expectations are.
Yeah,
That's all. It's nothing groundbreaking or no change from what exists, but it's just putting it in paper so we all are on the same page.
Okay.
okay.
Easy peasy. I also put it on the housing committee agenda and didn't send it out to you guys, so I'm not surprised I didn't send it out for this
We
group.
did talk about it, but everybody knows you're gonna send them
Right.
their own copy.
Right.
We did question what was the impetus for this.
Apparently it's a town
I-
impetus.
I asked for us, because unless you really engage with what the rules are for the committees, it's really hard. Sometimes you find out you're supposed to have done something as a staff member. You find out down the line, like, oh, I should have done this, or the minutes need to go here, and who is Tina chasing down to make sure the minutes are on the website? So this
Right.
just kind of puts it all in
Right.
writing, so
Yeah.
I just would rather know what is expected of me than to find out later that I haven't done something that is expected
Yep.
of me. So Terry put this together.
No, that's helpful.
Housing committee update, I just wanted to, the housing committee is working on some ordinance amendments, or will be working on ordinance amendments having to do with the housing legislation that was passed in 2025 and amended in '26. We've met with our consultant twice. He did kind of an ordinance, I can't remember the word.
Audit?
Audit, yes, thank you. He did an
I know
ordinance
because of
audit.
typing,
Yes.
reading the minutes.
And he just looked at all the housing related, the housing related ADU and stuff, language in our ordinances, and made some suggestions.
Okay.
And
so
he's going to report to us when? That was one of my questions.
I think the 17th.
Yeah, we said it. It's in that email I sent you.
Yeah, and I didn't have it, for some reason, I didn't write that down in my minutes,
Yeah.
so I just didn't remember which of the September meetings. I remember
have it
there was an
written down
issue with one,
upstairs.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
maybe just send it to me when you get my thing, so that I can do that right.
So anyways, those will be coming to the planning board, and it was really an interesting discussion. He has worked with this material a lot, and he's working on how the state law applies to our ordinances, and then suggesting changes, and then we
Great.
kind of made some future suggestions, or additional suggestions of things that we wanted changed. Which is
And there's
cool.
the whole thing about workforce housing and affordable housing and language changes over time, even if you're talking about a similar thing. And I don't know if that confuses people or not.
Yes.
Does.
Yeah.
And he's really good, by the way.
Yeah.
I thought he was great.
Yeah, yeah.
Is Asher, he's another, I didn't know, was he a consultant or
He
a,
works for.
works for?
that,
I didn't know how to
works
refer to him.
our-
His assistant or something?
I don't know,
Oh,
He
okay.
looked like
He's young.
new to the,
a recent grad.
yeah, and he's getting experience. I
Okay.
thought the kid just went off, and I thought the other guy, he handled it really well. He did a good job.
Yep.
If I was just out of college, I'd want him helping me.
That's awesome. So 2 updates, we had some, 2 interns working with us this summer, who you guys probably all met,
Yep.
Miriam and Ketcher.
Are they gone now?
Yes, their last day was Friday.
Oh.
Miriam worked on this drinking water and septic study. It's based on, it's funded by this grant that we got. We are working with a consultant, Carol White, out of, I think, Long Island or Shabik. But basically, there's a survey live that I would encourage everybody to take, and it asks questions about the quality and the quantity of your groundwater, and then a couple septic questions. The link is there, and if anybody's interested, you should definitely go fill out the survey.
Can I make a suggestion as
Yeah.
a resident of Harpswell? It should be on the front page of the website.
It's in the, under new items / notices.
It's really hard to
Find
find
it.
stuff on our
It's
website.
really
We know
hard.
this.
Yeah,
I mean,
Jim
there
is
should be
laughing.
like a special banner, fill this
Wasn't my
out.
fault.
What?
Wasn't my fault. I used to be the communication specialist for the town. That was one of the things we tried to.
he was the
while I was
website guy
there.
for a while.
Ah.
Yeah, I knew
Well,
that.
it's, I'm not talking about the website design, I'm just
No, I
saying, you
know.
know, this is a special thing, and if you want, I mean, I couldn't find it. And if you want people to fill it out, and I
You have to
don't do
use a
things
QR
on my
code.
phone. I mean, I could, but I don't, I would much rather sit at my computer
Yeah.
and,
Yeah,
Yeah, I can't do it by QR code.
I
You
mean,
can
I
what?
can do it, but I
Because to
prefer
use a
not.
QR code, I have to do it on this. I
Right. Yep.
can't do it from my computer,
Yep.
right.
which means I can't read it. Yeah.
So a link to it on the front page of the website would be
Sure.
awesome.
Is there,
And
is this
people
going to
will
be?
do it. I mean, put a notice in the anchor and,
well, there's an article that's gonna be in the Anchor
Cool.
that Sam Lemonick wrote, and then we're gonna put it in the tax bulletin, so it'll go to everybody's property address, or everybody's mailing address, and then we're also hoping to send out a postcard that will go to everybody in town.
oh,
That's
good,
good.
okay.
Yeah.
If
That's
there's a
great.
link on it or a link in the Anchor article, you can still get that in. I know, having submitted many things to the Anchor.
Yeah,
It's like by the 15th, but if there could be a link that could be included in the Anchor article, especially you can get the Anchor article online, click on it, and Bob's your uncle.
all right,
Yeah, everything you can do to make it easier
Yep,
for people.
yep.
yes.
Can maybe swap out. We could add a card where the employment opportunities card is on the website. Because right now the only job posting that looks like it is up is a seasonal recycling center attendant, and that job would end normally in October anyways.
Right, the
so,
season's over.
Yeah. So that way we could get it right on the front page of the site. 'Cause the other ones are also pretty important.
And I see there's a future flood risk study here as well, and that's also a QR code, but not a survey. I thought actually I was about to answer the survey. I mean, I wanted to look at the risk study, but it went
Yeah.
right away to the survey, so maybe I did something wrong there.
Maybe.
Mary Ann
So-
Naif is on the,
So Catcher worked on the future flood risk study, and he worked at the end of it. It was this project done by Stantec where we looked at different sea level rise scenarios and different storm scenarios, and looked at how it would impact people's property and town infrastructure, and it's very interesting.
yep.
It's the wrong QR code.
Oh, that's my fault. You know how many times I tried to fix that?
Does it have, did the drinking water and septic
Yeah.
study? Yeah, that's what happened to
Yeah.
me today, too.
So-
When I saw it was 15 minutes, I didn't have 15 minutes today.
So, Catcher worked on a story map, so basically like a story that explains the maps essentially. So some text to go along with it to explain how to use the maps. But it's not quite ready for prime time, so we have not published it, but it will be coming out soon and it's really exciting and,
Cool.
I'm really, I look forward to everybody using it and asking questions and really getting a lot of valuable information on it.
Excellent.
Yeah. And that's all that I have, I think.
So then you're going to, the flood risk study QR code will be,
Well, this was
Fixed or
just for
there'll be
you
a
guys,
link?
really.
but it doesn't work, so it doesn't matter, right?
Right.
Okay.
All right, yeah. I think it's been a really hard trying to explain these complicated flooding situations in really like plain language. And I think that, with diagram, I think we need more diagrams and,
The maps, yeah.
yeah.
A lot
And
more
so-
pictures.
Yeah, so that's what we're working on right now, is just, we know we have the text, but we need like the diagrams to support it.
Well, great. Thank you. If there's anything else, then we are adjourned.
All right.
Great. Bye, everyone.
Mary Ann Naif said there'll be a QR code. Oh, she said two things. The term community docks use only refers to those in the subdivisions is confusing. Suggests having two definitions. Yes, and there'll be a QR code and link on the town website.
Yep. But we don't like QR codes.
Yes, but we'll have a link.
Do you have to turn off the, okay.
Thanks, Mary Ann Naif.
Who's confused too?
There's a lot of that going on.
That was.
All right, well, thank you all for coming. This was really helpful.
Yes, it was.
Am I needed for a quorum on next Wednesday?
On the 19th?
Yeah.
Okay, Lori's not going to be here.
I will be Zooming from Norfolk. I'm visiting my sister.
Are you really?
I am, and I will,
I thought you lived in Harpswell. You don't spend any time here.
it's just,
You just try to escape
it's
the
been,
heat.
it's been ironic. We were supposed to go a different